guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about study tips for anatomy using mnemonic devices. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, I have been getting lots and lots of requests about how to study for medical terminology. How do you study for anatomy? People get bored thinking about anatomy and medical terminology, and it does get overwhelming for some. And I understand it is a lot. You know, I always say all the time on my channel, we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. The difference is doctors get 10 to 15 years to be a doctor, and they get to learn and know all of this stuff. Whereas we as medical coders, you know, hopefully you've gone through a 9-month program, 9 months, 12 months, or 18 months. Some people get shorter time than that. But if you are getting shorter time than that, then you really need to buckle down on your medical terminology and your anatomy if you don't have prior experience with that yet. So the best way that I have learned to remember a lot of this stuff, not memorize, but sort of remember it, recall it, and just be able to have an understanding of it, is to use mnemonic devices. Now, if you don't know what a mnemonic device is, it is a word or sometimes a phrase that you can use to associate what you need to recall. And so with anatomy, this is the best way to do it. And I'm going to be leaving the link for some very helpful websites in the description box below. Along with my contact information, I do offer tutoring for medical coding. I also offer professional coaching if you are in the interview process, or if you need a resume rewrite. There's also that price in the description box below as well. So I want you guys to get into good habits while you are a student. A lot of times people will ask me, they'll write in and ask me very simple questions that can be looked up by, you know, with Google or going directly to the website, either AHIMA or AAPC, depending, because sometimes I get specific association questions, and I'm like, guys, you have to learn to do your research. And I'm teaching you guys to get into these good habits now, because when you become medical coders, this is going to be imperative to your work. You're not always going to have somebody who's going to be able to just hand you things. I have tons and tons of videos about study tips, about interview tips, about resume tips, and all of the books I recommend and all of my study materials are all in the description box of all of my videos. So guys, please take the time to check those out, so that way you can get a lot of really good information right away. And I think that will be very helpful for you. So I'm going to talk about some really fun mnemonic devices tonight. And so hopefully you will be able to use these and incorporate this into your study time. And it's not just about looking in books, okay? So some of you, I know, have an aversion to books. I love books. I'm a book lover, so books is never an issue for me. But if you find yourself needing to use another medium for study, like watching videos, there's JJ Medicine on YouTube. Now, I'm not affiliated with JJ Medicine, but I really like their channel because it has the breakdown of all of like anatomy and medical terms in really short clips. I know a lot of people like their little short clips. I am not a fan of really short things, but this is why like Reels and TikTok drive me nuts, because I don't like the quick. Because I think if you do quick, it does not stay, right? So the long way is the fast way. When you spend time learning these things and you take the time to learn them, it's going to retain a lot longer. When you're trying to speed through and rush through is when, you know, you run into some problems. But what I like about JJ Medicine is that it is broken down in little bites, but not too little, okay? They are short, but they are not like Reels and TikTok short. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with some of these. But yes, guys, check out JJ Medicine, and I think you'll really like that. So, you know, I always say to learn your foundations, right? When you're learning anatomy. So learn your bones, learn your muscle groups, learn your organs, right? So when you start with these, you know, your bones, your muscles, your organs, this is a good place to start. This is your foundation. You don't have to know all the detailed stuff right away, but this is going to give you a good head start into getting going and to where you can start to retain that knowledge. But you're never going to get there if you don't start trying. So again, I think these mnemonic devices are going to be fun. So the rotator cuff, for example, there are 4 muscles in the rotator cuff, but in order to know what muscles they are, you could simply say the phrase, Scooby investigated the mysterious scene. So you're going to take the first letter of each of these words, Scooby, so S, investigated, I, the, T, mysterious, M, and S for scene. You're going to take the first letter of these words and you're going to associate them with the muscle groups, with the muscles of the rotator cuff, which are the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the tres minor, and the subscapularis. These 4 muscles make up the rotator cuff. So that is a way for you to remember that. Scooby investigated the mysterious scene. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, tres minor, and the subscapularis. Okay, so keep in mind there is a tres minor and a tres major. Think of tres minor, which is part of the rotator cuff, minor as in a child, because Scooby is a kid's cartoon. So that's how you can remember between the tres major and the tres minor. It's going to be tres minor because Scooby is associated with a child's program. So that is one way to remember those. There's also the bones of the upper limbs, okay? So one really cute one mnemonic device to remember this is how rare you cook mesquite pork. And U is just the letter U, okay? It's not Y-O-U, it's just the letter U. So how rare you cook mesquite pork, okay? 6 words. We're going to associate the H, the R, the U, letter U, the C, the M, and the P, okay? So the bones of the upper limbs are the humerus, the radius, the ulna, the carpal bones, the metacarpal bones, and the phalanges. So that's in order from proximal to distal, okay? So proximal to distal, okay? Humerus, radius, and ulna, the carpal bones, the metacarpal bones, the phalanges, okay? So that's how you can remember the bones of the upper limb. So when you start to think and you see these charts and they have a problem with their ulna and you can't remember, like, where is this? Then you can think of that mnemonic device, how rare you cook mesquite pork, and that's how you can remember all of those bones. And it just makes it a lot easier. So I like these. I like using mnemonic devices. They're a lot of fun. The bones of the lower limbs are from pennies to fives, they may pay. From pennies to fives, they may pay. So 7 words, F, P, T, F, T, M, P. So the bones of the lower limbs go from proximal to distal, okay, so from the closest to the body to the furthest away. We're going to go with the femur, the patella, the tibia and the fibula, the tarsal bones, the metatarsal bones, and the phalanges. Yes, you have fingers and you have your toes. So that's the thing. You have to remember those things, okay? So you know where you're at in the body, the bones of the lower limbs. From pennies to fives, they may pay. I was going to say play. Femur, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsal bones, metatarsal bones, and phalanges. Okay, so just remember that. And that's how you can start to recall and know where these things are. The bones of the cranium, right? The way that I remember it is fit people only eat table salt. It is weird. Oh, no. It's fit people occasionally eat table salt. So the bones of the cranium, like your head right here, right? So you have your frontal, your parietal, your occipital, the ethmoid, the temporal, and the sphenoid. Okay, 6 bones make up the cranium. Fit people occasionally eat table salt. The frontal, the parietal, the occipital, the ethmoid, the temporal, and the sphenoid. Again, just an easy way to be able to recall these things. So just use these, and there's different variations. They have fraternity parties occasionally teach. Spam etiquette is the other one. And then they have fluffy puppies on every 3rd street, which who doesn't love fluffy puppies? So they have the holes in the bone, right? So they have flowers flow neatly, fabulously, which is the foramen, the fissure, the notch, and the fossa. So there are 4 holes in the bones. So that's a way to remember and recall. Let's see, the joint in the wrist. So roads in California, RIC, roads in California, radiocarpal, intercarpal, and carpal metacarpal are the joint in the wrist, right? That's what makes it the joint in the wrist. Let's see what else here. I like these. I really enjoy these. I like to see if I can find any new ones. They have the bone markings of the humerus, and that mnemonic device is let's rewatch Criminal Minds, which, I mean, come on. So LRCM. So you have the lateral epicondyle, the radial fossa, the coronoid fossa, and the medial epicondyle. Okay, the 4. So that's just a way to remember. And then of course we did the rotator cuff. Let's see. And then the skull sutures, right? So come sing love songs, right? CSLS. The coronal suture, the sagittal suture, the lambdoid suture, and the squamous suture. Okay, that makes up the skull sutures. So guys, you can really make this a lot of fun. There's another one that I like to remember how many vertebrae are in the spine, right? When you're talking about the cervical, the thoracic, and the lumbar. So the cervical is think of when you are having your meals during the day, right? So at 7 in the morning you have breakfast. There are 7 cervical vertebrae, and at lunch you have that at 12 noon, right? So there are 12 thoracic vertebrae as we're going down. 7, 12 for the thoracic, right? And then we have our lumbar. When do you have dinner? At 5 o'clock. So there are 5 lumbar vertebrae. And then of course you have your other ones, but I just want to kind of like go through those because they're not fused. They're the ones that are with their separate bones. So that is another thing that you can use to remember and jog your memory on these things. It gets to be a lot of fun, but you have to make it fun. You have to be able to get your mind engaged, and you have to be able to do this consistently, because that is the only way you're going to be able to start to recall all of these things. If you are half putting your foot into studying, that's the result that you're going to get. If you are not putting enough energy, and by enough energy I mean 20 hours a week minimum, you got to go 20 hours a week minimum. You cannot negotiate for less time because it's only going to hurt you. The more that you read your coding guidelines, the more you go over your anatomy and your medical terminology, the more you schedule yourself, the easier it's going to be able to digest all of this information. Because you don't want to sit there and try to scramble at the last minute and then try to barely pass your certification exam, because that's not going to help you in the long run. What's going to help you in the long run is that consistent study and being able to understand when they're giving you a test on the outside, when you're outside of your school walls, they're going to be giving you a test. And when they give you a test, you are going to have to be able to pass that. If you don't pass that, then you're not going to get a call back. And so that's what happens. A lot of these students, medical coding students, will get into these programs, go through these really fast medical coding programs, and feel cheated because the school didn't help them like they should help them, or like they promised they would help them. And then they're out there in the world trying to find a job and not having enough skill. And that's what hesitates these that's the hesitation from a lot of these employers, is that sometimes these candidates are just ill prepared and they don't have time to sit there and train when that's the responsibility of the school. So I always encourage people, if you are in a fast-paced medical coding program, it's still not a reason to give up. It is a reason to dig your heels in and start to study more and look for things like this that can help you to study. I also recommend putting up anatomy posters, which I have the link for the Amazon affiliate link. Again, you don't have to click on it. The title is there. You can even Google yourself, anatomy plates, that you can hang up the posters, right? Because remember when we were kids and the teacher had that border all around the room, and it had the numbers and had our letters on it. And that was how we started to be able to recall all of this information, right? We learned to read because we learned our letters, and we learned the order of the letters and the order of the numbers. And that was how we started to learn reading and math. And when you constantly expose your brain to this stimuli, right, this new stuff, it's going to start recalling it a lot easier. That's why teachers put up those letters and those numbers, so that way children can learn. And we learn kind of the same, but our study habits change as we get to adulthood. And so having those posters up, it makes it easier for you to recall. Why do you think doctors' offices have anatomy posters all over the place in their offices? Because they're having that constant direct stimuli in their brain to see, okay, this is the body, and this is the bones, and this is the muscles, and this is the organs, and everything else. So that is how they're able to keep their knowledge up and sharp, because they constantly have that around them. So whatever space that you have to study in, make sure that you are having posters up with the anatomy. If you can't afford it, because maybe you don't have your book right now or whatever, there's a lot of anatomy plates even on the internet. You can just Google some of those. Please don't write in and ask me where can I find free ones, because again, guys, you can do your research and find them on the web, so that way you can print them out and post them around, so that way you can see them and you can keep that stimuli present at all times. And I think that it's just beneficial for you all in the long run. But again, you have to be engaged with that part, and you have to make it consistent. And you don't have to go for hours at a time. I always recommend, when you are studying, to study for no more than 1 hour at a time. 50 minutes, 50, you can even go to, and then you can take a break for 15 minutes and then come back to your studies and then go for another half an hour. Or you can go for 45 minutes and then take a 30-minute break and then go for another half an hour. However you want to do it, but make it for less than 1 hour at a time, because anything longer than 1 hour, your brain is going to get fatigued. So just make sure that you are consistently running through these things. If you say, Blue, I don't have time, I work a full-time job. I work a full-time job too, guys. And trust me, I took 2 medical coding certifications last year, and I passed them both in the first try. So I incorporated study time on top of my full-time job, on top of YouTube, on top of Patreon, on top of tutoring, on top of resume rewrites, on top of professional coaching. I did all of that, and I was still able to maintain studying and keeping that time in, because believe me, I have to study too. And I'm not proficient on inpatient because I've never been an inpatient coder before. So that was where I focused all of my energy. And not only that, I took a CDI boot camp last year as well. So that was more brain power going out. But it's a commitment. It's a commitment of something that I wanted, and I got it. It's the same thing that you have to do if you're out there studying. Sometimes people are making every excuse in the world not to study. Oh, I'm tired and I don't want to do this and I'm falling asleep. Guys, if that's with the energy you're going to put into it, I don't know. Look at the result. Are you going to start to learn that stuff? Probably not. But if it's something that you're interested in, you're going to make sure that you pay attention, right? So you need to do things in order to make this interesting for you. Because believe me, it is interesting. And when you start to really put yourself into it, that's when you'll start to see it. But again, until you start looking for like mnemonic devices and working with flashcards and putting up those posters, you're still going to run into that same issue of this is boring to me. Not everything is constantly fun all the time, guys. That I want you guys to remember. It's not always going to be fun. There's going to be times when you're going to have to do the heavy lifting and the hard work and the stuff that's going to frustrate you. But it's part of the shaping process. And the sad thing is so many people run from that right before they start to see their potential. So, but anyway, that's my show for this week. So I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have, I hope that you hit that like button. Liking and commenting really does help me to get my channel out to more people as we are approaching that 18,000 organically grown subscribers. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.